All right, this is my friend and my colleague. We've been working together for almost 20 years. Alex Suslensky. He has his own law practice, and he's going to talk about a little bit about this market and how it differs from other markets and what we're seeing right now and the end of the business quarter. What are you seeing out there?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this.
Thank you, sir, for coming.
I love to hear myself talk, so this is just another opportunity for that. The market is interesting. It's certainly the volume is lower, I think. We're probably at some sort of impasse between buyers and sellers. Buyers want prices that are lower than what sellers are willing to sell for. There's a lot of sort of macroeconomic factors that play into that. It started, I think, with interest rates going significantly higher. I mean, within a year, we went from the 2s to the 7s, which is, if you take out your calculators, is an incredible difference.
Unbelievable. I mean, I'm seeing on $2 million deals, what was once $9,000 mortgages are now like $16,000. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's just math. You know, I mean, when you're looking at such an increase, it's going to have an impact on anybody who needs a mortgage, which when you're looking at middle class, upper middle class buyers, that's almost everyone, right?
Yeah.
And even people who, let's say, can't afford to buy for all cash, you know, seasoned investors with money flowing out of their ears, for them, it makes more sense usually to invest with financing anyway. But now it makes less sense to invest in deals because their cost of financing is so much higher. So that, I think, had an impact. You have world events that are obviously having an impact. The situation in Russia, Ukraine, the situation in the Middle East, oil prices, all of that factors into the real estate market. Just like if you get the Wall Street Journal or you listen to CNBC or whatever and you're following the markets, it's a similar idea with the real estate market. Those types of macroeconomic events will have an impact on the real estate market. So right now we're sort of at an impasse. The key in real estate, maybe as opposed to other types of markets, is not to get too caught up in these sort of general statements and trends, because at the end of the day, real estate is very unique. It's not like buying stocks, right? It's not like trading currency. A one-bedroom apartment, which is 1,000 square feet and has a 1,500 square foot terrace, is a very unique property, right? So you have to look at it deal to deal. And even in a very difficult market, if a property is desired and there's a lot of demand for it and there's not a lot of it out there, it will still feel like a seller's market for that particular deal.
I definitely see that. There's hardly anything moving, and then the few things that are moving have multiple bids.
My perspective as a real estate attorney starts when the deal is already made. But there's still some negotiation to do. There's negotiation to do on the contract, and that negotiation will depend on who has the leverage. And a lot of times buyers during the contract negotiation, will today feel like they deserve everything. Like the seller is lucky to have them, which 100%. Is not always the case.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the buyer is lucky to have gotten the bid and really the seller is driving the truck, and they could sort of control some of the terms that we negotiate in the contract stage.
Do you see activity picking up at all in the last 2 months?
I would say in the last 2 months, no. I think there were some blips and bumps, but in general, I don't think things have been picking up yet. I think we are still in that sort of impasse period between buyers and sellers. From past experience, because I've had my firm for over 21 years, that we're probably at the end of this cycle. That it's going to get to the point where both sides, buyers and sellers, are going to get comfortable with the new normal.
Yeah.
Interest rates, markets, macroeconomic issues, whatever's going on in the world, and then just start to move. I mean, people need to buy, people need to sell, and all these other factors I think are going to play a lesser part, and they're just gonna come together.
Have you seen this market before? Have you seen a version of this market before?
I certainly have seen more than once situations like this where buyers and sellers were not close together, and that causes a big decrease in volume. Like I said, at some point, the cycle runs its course. Sellers usually are forced to reduce their prices to a level where buyers can meet them, and then the whole thing starts all over again.
Are you seeing any crazy deals that you would not normally see? Or I guess it might be hard for you to decipher that because you don't really see the property. But I'm just wondering if you're seeing numbers that you would not normally see or anything like that, or is it?
Well, the numbers don't mean anything to me at all
Mhm.
because I don't know what the market is for numbers, but the contract provisions, in the real estate world, we sort of have customary provisions that real estate attorneys are used to seeing. When buyers feel like have more leverage, they will ask for things outside of this norm.
Yeah.
They will ask for unusual provisions.
Mhm.
And that's something that I'm definitely seeing, both from the other side, when I'm the seller's attorney and a buyer's attorney comes to me and says, we want this. And I say, are you crazy? I've never seen anything like this, or I haven't seen it in many years, or no seller is going to agree to this, but they want it anyway.
Yeah.
And then also from my clients when I represent buyers.
Yeah.
I'll have clients sort of, it's uncomfortable for me because they'll sort of second guess me and say, well, why don't we ask for this? Why can't we have it?
Yeah.
It's a buyer's market. We can have anything we want, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So,
like sale contingencies.
Sale contingencies. I had one the other week where a buyer wanted a contingency on an interest rate cap. If the interest rate goes above a certain number, the buyer can get out.
That's insane.
I mean, that's something that I haven't seen since I started my firm 21 years ago, where people would do that.
That's crazy. Great for buyers, but the time could. But I also feel like do these terms mean anything like in the long run? I feel like most of the time in the deals that we've done together, it's always sees it to the finish line. Right. A lot of it is kabuki, Right.
So this is an excellent point that you're bringing up. No matter how scary or obnoxious a provision feels, you have to consider it in the context of reality. It is completely obnoxious, in my opinion, for a buyer to ask for a provision that says if the interest rate goes above a certain number, we can get out.
Yeah.
Completely obnoxious. Unheard of.
Yeah.
Not in any standard contract. But then let's parse it out. Let's think about it. What number do they want? Is their number so crazy? It happened to be not so crazy, right? It was a number that is probably not going to be reached. It's a number that for them, if it is reached, it's not going to make sense to buy, right? So you can understand where they're coming from.
Totally.
And ultimately, like you said, because it's so unlikely that hurdle will be crossed, it's probably not going to happen. And the seller, in the position of many sellers these days, has to kind of weigh that and say, well, let's say I've been on the market for over a year and no one's interested in my property. This is all I got. This is the best thing I got. So let's go for it. Let's accept it. So again, you have to look at every deal differently, and you have to kind of put things in perspective. No matter, I think the challenge is keeping emotion out of it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the part that's very difficult to handle in New York City, because that part depends on all the players.
Yeah.
And it depends on the real estate agents involved. It depends on the real estate attorneys involved. Those players could either turn down the heat and
bring it up.
Sort of allow their clients to look at things very logically without emotion, or they could turn up the heat and say, "Can you believe they're asking for this? This is crazy. This is unheard of," right? See the difference in presentation, you know?
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, it's and it also, like my business, we're ultimately you're in law, I'm in sales, but we're both in service, and clients, like any market, need to be serviced accordingly. The adjustments might need to be made from buyer to seller, but at the end of the day, ultimately, we are in the service industry. We have to make sure that they feel heard, that provision, even addressing some of these what if factors. I can't imagine, someone walking out of a deal that they're contractually obligated to go through with, even if they have an out 3 months deep into it. And,
right.
But they want to know that you advocated for that.
For sure. I mean, for sure, especially in my position as an attorney, I have a legal obligation to what they call zealously represent my client,
Mm-hmm.
right? To fight for my client. But in doing so, as an attorney, you have to consider, what does the client really want?
Yeah.
Why did the client spin their wheels to get to this point, spend money and time to get to this point where they're interested in a property, where they made an offer on a property and the offer was accepted? It's because they want that property. Ultimately, that's what they want. So, there's a very old and famous expression that they use in law school, and goes something like, not seeing the forest from the trees.
Mm-hmm.
Basically like focusing on each individual tree instead of seeing the big picture, which is the forest. Like, for a deal, the forest is, do you want this property, right? And then there's all these little trees that go into it, all these little things that you negotiate, which all together matter, but maybe one or two of them don't matter. And that's what you have to decide as a buyer or a seller.
And also, just on that point, I have deals that are about to blow up, and because either I represent the buyer and the seller is just being totally unrealistic, or they just, are acting really just awful, and my buyers will, and this could flip, but my buyers could walk. And I'll say, look, we can walk, we can do that, but in 2 or 3 months from now, when we close, you will not remember this. You will remember the house that you have or the apartment that you bought, and you're not going to sell that for the next 10 to 20 years. And all this is just total noise. Like, you need to shut it out and see it to the finish line. And you never know what someone else is feeling on the other end of it. A lot of sellers in this market could be losing money on something, and that's a hard pill to swallow.
Absolutely.
So there has to be empathy on both ends, but ultimately there has to be a goal as well.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tricky.
Yeah.
That's why it makes a difference in New York. The experience, the expertise of the real estate agent and the real estate attorney, because that will determine a lot of times how the deal goes.
No, I agree, and there are deals that happen and they can fizzle out 50% of the time if they don't have the right team, and a lot of times if they have the right team, they'll close. And a lot of it's just professionalism and empathy and seeing a goal at the end of it, and because at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And it's a tricky market, but I also think people appreciate the extra mile that you go through. Clients and
right, yeah,
I think really do appreciate that kind of stuff, and very easy to close deals in last year, but this year it's like they'll remember that you advocated for that one clause. Or
Yeah, it's definitely something that you hear at almost every closing table these days.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as an easy deal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it takes a lot more work from our side, from your side as agent, to make these deals happen and to make them happen in a way where people walk away ultimately satisfied. Right, that's the goal. Right, that's why I went into this business, as opposed to being a litigator and fighting people in court. I really enjoy the concept of, at the closing table, my clients walk away happy.
Yep.
So.
And that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you very much.
Take care, brother.